What's up, guys? Welcome to your 41st tutorial for the new Boston. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is basically finish up our application, and we're going to briefly talk through everything, and we're also going to learn about permissions in this tutorial. There's quite a few things, but it's going to be pretty simple, and I did check it on my phone. Basically the emulator is messed up in the last tutorial. I don't know if it can't use the camera application or what, but it does work on my phone anyways. So what we're going to do now is basically get that image or this bitmap that we collected from the data that was received after our camera application finished. We're just going to set that picture to the actual phone's background, even when they aren't using our application, you know, the wallpaper of the actual phone. So it's going to be pretty simple. Now that we have this bitmap set up, we're going to use a bitmap to set the application or the wallpaper of the actual phone. So how we can do that is we're going to say get application, and I'm sorry, this is within our, if our other button was pressed, our set wallpaper button was pressed, that's where we're setting this up within that switching case in our onClick method. So we're going to say get application context, and that's going to be a method that gets the context of our phone, and we can use some methods on that. And there's one called set wallpaper. Pretty self-explanatory of what that does. So we're just going to scroll down. I was just seeing if there's some other ones I could show you guys. Set wallpaper, as you can see, it takes a bitmap, and we're just going to put our bitmap in there called BMP and finish our statement, and it's going to give us an error because again, this is something kind of sketchy. It might not always work, so we're going to have to surround a try and catch with it. So just click that, and it's going to put it within a try bracket and catch the exception, input output exception. That's what that stands for, and then it's just going to print it to the debugger or throw it around. So there we go. We pretty much finished this application, and the only other thing we need to do is, because we are setting the wallpaper, we're going to have to add a permission. And I briefly talked about this in the past, but we do that within the Android manifest. So again, we open up the manifest, and there's this permissions tab right here. So we're going to add a permission to our application, and we're just going to say uses permission, and we can scroll through some of the permissions that we can use. And now there's a permission within this called Android.permission set wallpaper, I believe it is, something like that. But yes, set wallpaper. And you're probably wondering, maybe you aren't, but I just wanted to talk about it. You're like, okay, so we can use the camera, we can send emails, and we don't need permission for that, but we need permission to set the wallpaper. Well, basically, the reason we don't need permissions for those two other things that we've done, such as a wallpaper, such as sending an email, and what else? What did I just say? Man, it is getting too late. It's like 4 in the morning right now. Basically, those other two things, setting an email and using the camera, we can use those because we aren't actually defining those activities. Those are kind of standard activities, and to use those activities when they created them, basically the email activity, that's where they set up those permissions. So we're just using a different activity for the most part, or a different application altogether. Same with the camera. So if we set up our own custom camera, we'd probably have to use a permission for that. But the only permission we need to set up for application is to set the wallpaper. So we're going to add that and hit just enter or whatever. And then when we go into the manifest, you see they add that right here, right outside our application bracket. So if you guys feel like typing it out, you can type it there, or again just right below our application right here. That's where I generally set mine up, but when you do it through the easy tab right here, it sets it up above it. Not a big deal. So our application works. I'm going to run it on my phone and show you guys some of the errors that this application has, and then we're going to fix those errors in the next couple tutorials. So alright, what's up, guys? So here's our camera application that we just set up, and basically, I don't know if you can see. Alright, so we're going to try and take a picture, and it opens up our camera activity, as you can see here. I'm just going to take a quick pic, and then it's going to say, is that okay, or is that okay, are you guys done? We're going to say done, and there, oh dang it, well, there's one of the errors that I wanted to show you guys. Basically, when we tilt our camera, that picture goes away, But just to show you guys that this activity or this application actually works, I'm going to take a picture like this and then hit done. And as you can see, there is our image view right here, and it has that picture I just took. And then we can say set wallpaper, and we're going to add like a little display so it gives the person using the application a little bit of security that it did set the wallpaper. But I wanted to show you guys the error that if it tilts, it goes back to our default image up there. So that's something we have to get rid of. And then also another thing that we can do that's a problem, oops, as you can see, once it has that default bitmap right there and we hit set wallpaper, it's going to force close our application. But as you can see, I'm outside of our application now. I'm in my actual home page, and it has that picture set as the background. I don't know if you can tell that. Looks pretty blurry and everything, but that's fine. So our application for the most part works. We're going to fix some of those errors in the next tutorials. So I'll catch you guys then. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 40-second Android tutorial for the new Boston. Again with me, Travis. What we're going to do in this tutorial is basically break through or talk through our application for the most part, get you guys a little more comfortable with what we're doing, and also fix one of the errors that we're having. So basically, one of the errors that we're having is if we try and set the wallpaper right when our application starts, it's going to give us an error and crash our program. So what we're going to do to fix that is basically set our bitmap up to equal something at the beginning before our application starts. So there, if they actually hit the set wall, it's just going to set it to our default icon that shows in our image view. But quickly, let's just break through or talk through. Why do I keep saying breakthrough? We're going to talk through our application, get you guys again hopefully familiar with what we're doing. What we're doing is set in the content view, set up some variables so we can use it within different methods, and then we're using this initialize method that just kind of sets all of our references and sets our on-click listeners for our two buttons. Once one of those buttons are pressed, it's going to go to this on-click method. It's going to determine which button was pressed by the switching case. It's going to get the ID of the button that was pressed. If his button set wall, it'll do this. If his button set picture or take picture, it'll do this method within this case. Now if it is the set picture or take picture button or image view button, it's going to start a new intent. Again, the intent action name of the camera application that comes with your phone, and then it's going to start that activity for result, giving some data back. And then once we get done using that activity, our camera activity, it's going to come back, give us some data through this onActivityResult method. Just give us some stuff that we can work with. We're going to check if it worked, if it's successful, if we got a picture, we got some data back for the most part by using this result code, which is our second parameter that gets passed in. If that's okay, we're going to get the bundle or get the extras from that activity, and then we're going to set up a bitmap based on that activity. Then we're going to set the image view based off of our bitmap. So it's kind of confusing, especially like you're like, okay, I don't really understand these two lines for sure. That's okay, guys, for the most part right now. Don't worry too much about that. Again, we're just kind of learning Java and some of the methods and some of the stuff that we can do with Android. So what we're going to do to fix our first error, this bitmap error that we're getting if we try to set the wallpaper right as our application starts, basically our bitmap is not set to anything. So that's what it's referencing when we say set wallpaper. It's going to say set the wallpaper to basically our bitmap right here. So what we need to do is define this bitmap at the beginning. And how we're going to do that is we're going to define it a different way than we did right here. You're like, dang it, man, I don't, what are you doing? I don't even understand this. I'm sorry, guys, but you will in time, trust me, I promise you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it a different way, setting up the bitmap by input stream, and we're going to set it up that way. Now it's basically kind of confusing, but for the most part, the input stream is going to get us some input from our, our resource folder, our drawable folder here, and just basically set it to the default image. We're going to set it to the icon for the most part. So we're going to set up our bitmap within the onCreate method after everything gets initialized or variables get set up. So we're going to say bitmap, or actually let's do it this way. We're going to say input stream, and we're going to say IS for input stream equals, how's that blue? I'm going to import that, and we're going to set this equal to something, a method called getResources, because again, our image or icon PNG is within our resource folder, so we're going to say getResources, and that's just going to be a method that kind of relates to our resources for the most part. Again, it's a method, so it has parentheses, and we're going to say dot, and we're going to say open raw resources. You guys are probably thinking it's referring to this raw folder. For the most part, it's not. Just still think of that as accessing our resource folder. So we're going to click that, and then we're going to say whatever image we want to set up, r.drawable dot, and then we can pick an image that we want basically to set as the background if the person doesn't take the picture and just use that set button, set wallpaper. So we're going to set their background as the icon, which is pretty lame. That'll teach them not to take a picture and set their background that way. So basically we set up an input stream, and now we need to decode this input stream as we set up our bitmap. So we're going to say bitmap, basically our bitmap variable, and we're going to set it equal to basically this input stream. But we have to decode an input stream for the most part. I know this is kind of confusing as well, but just to get our application working, and we'll get into more detail as well as we go through the series, promise you guys. And we're going to refer to the class bitmap factory. We need to import this class. It's not allowing us to do so yet. So we just hit bitmap factory, decode stream, or decode, what is it, input stream? No, decode stream, I believe. And then there we go. Again, import the bitmap factory for the most part. You guys will probably have to do that. I might have done that already when I was just messing around, make sure this works. And now what we're going to do is we're going to decode the stream, basically our input stream that we're set up here called IS. So that's going to basically set up our bitmap to equal something in our resources. And how we do that is the bitmap factory dot decode a stream, and then we throw in whatever stream we want it to decode, which is getting our resources. For the most part, that's what these two things will do. And this is our actual bitmap that we want to decode for the most part. So hopefully that kind of makes sense, guys. I'll get rid of one of our errors, and then in the next tutorial we'll get rid of the other error as our emulator turns on its side. So I know it's kind of confusing, guys. Please stick with the series, and I will catch you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 43rd Android tutorial for the new Boston, again with me, Travis. What we're going to do in this tutorial is basically fix our other error that we have within our Android. That's an annoying little splash sound. What we're going to do is fix basically our this other error that we're getting when we take a picture, it sets it, and then when our emulator goes off to its side, such as, let's see, like this, it's going to reset the picture back to this default icon. And before we get started, it's going to be a real quick tutorial, but before we get started, I want to show you guys how to turn the emulator on its side. Pretty simple. I believe if you guys just shut off your numpad, if you guys are on Windows, and then just hit 7 or 9 on your numpad, it'll change it. Or you can hit Control F11. It's not working for me. I think it might be a Mac thing. But I believe it's Control F11 and F12 or F10, one of those, and that'll change the emulator over to basically this is landscape mode and this is portrait mode, which is going to be important for this tutorial. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to fix the orientation, and also, now that I think about it, just I mean, you guys don't really probably care about this, but this little app name, we can do that as well. We're going to change that. So that's what we're going to do in this tutorial, pretty quickly, pretty simply. And how we do that is we set that code up within the Android manifest. So I want you guys to open that up and scroll down to our camera application, and first to change this title, it's referring to the string variable app name, so you guys can change this to like camera application or something like that if you want, and then it'll change the title, or label I should say. Nothing too important, but we can also set up some different initialization kind of codes within this activity. opening bracket of the activity of our class that we want to mess around with, and we can use basically a code called Android dot, and as you guys can see, there's quite a few different codes we can do within the manifest, so that's pretty neat. We're going to say set orientation, I believe it is, but now it's not coming up, so I gotta make sure. I gotta think. I believe it's set orient. No. Oh yeah. I always mess up on this one for some reason. It's screen orientation, and we can set the screen orientation either to landscape or portrait. So what we want to do is have it kind of like this, because we kind of set it up in XML for a portrait view. So we're going to keep it portrait the whole time. So is that how you spell portrait? I believe so. Let's check it out, make sure my spelling's right. And basically that's the end of the tutorial. Pretty quick like I said. Oh, and also this brings up another point. If you guys want to run your actual application on your Android phone, if you guys have an Android phone, I don't really want to waste my time within the series telling you guys how to do that, but on my website I have a blog post that kind of walks you guys through that. And if you guys have any additional questions of what we're doing, if I'm not making sense, you guys can contact me through that email I did in that other tutorial where we set up that hate mail or whatever. You guys can contact me at that email, and I'll try and help you guys out as the best I can. And you know, because I can't really get any feedback because Bucky wants like 200 tutorials, so I can't see if I'm moving too fast or if everything that I say is confusing. I know some things are confusing for the most part, but it'll get better. Some of those things will get better, but some I just don't know if you guys are completely confused on like the life cycle, like, you know, the activity, extending activity, if you guys are still confused about that or not. But I know some of the bitmap and still that list view is probably kind of confusing, but let's check out, make sure our application works. As you can see, we changed the application name right here, and when we switch it over to landscape mode, it's a fixed orientation at portrait mode, so it's not going to re-change basically everything, and that will get rid of that error that we had with this bitmap. And I know I told you guys about running it on your phone. I don't know if I told you guys I have a blog post or not on my website, but I know I started saying that, but I'm not sure if I said that or not. So again, my website's mybringback.com, so you guys can check that out and get some additional help, as well as some more Android tutorials. I have a basic series. If you aren't liking the way that I'm teaching this one, it's kind of a different teaching style, but hopefully you guys like this tutorial. Pretty neat, especially for game development. A lot of times you want to set the screen orientation to landscape only. So that's how you can do that, is just with this code within the Android manifest for the activity that you're working for. So again, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next tutorial. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 44th Android tutorial for the new Boston, again with me, Travis. And what we're going to do is kind of give you guys a review on passing data, getting data, starting an activity for a desired result. So we're going to build kind of our own application, and kind of, because I mean, we briefly talked on those subjects, but it's kind of probably confusing for the most part. So we're going to build our own application and break it down for the most part. So what we need to do is set up two XML layouts. So I'm just going to set those up real quick. I'm going to call one send.xml, and I'm going to call the other one get for the most, well, I don't know what I'm going to call this. Yeah, get, or yeah, there we go. Basically, in our get XML, it's going to be a pretty simple layout. We aren't really going to care about the layout for the most part. We're just going to add an edit text, so under our text fields, plain text right there, and two buttons, and then a text view. But we are going to do something new with this layout for the most part, so stay tuned for that. But two buttons and an edit text. And let's go into the XML, because this is what I'm going to teach you guys that's new for the most part. Instead of linear layout, we're going to learn about relative layout, because some of you guys might like this for developing and whatnot. So instead of linear view, just type relative layout, and there we go. And then delete our orientation because we won't need that. And let's set up our edit text, the ID and all that stuff for all these things. So our edit text is right here, and we're going to change this to ET send because we're going to send some data through the edit text. And then it's pretty good. For a button, we're going to say start activity. For the text and our other button, we're going to say start activity for result. Just kind of get this boring stuff set up for the most part. Not result, and then B, we're going to say SAFR for start activity for result, and then B just BSA for the edit. And then for our text view, we're going to say TV for text view, and then got, and leave it as text view for now. It doesn't really matter. Then what we're going to do is what we can define with the relative layout is the positioning for the most part. As you can see, it's kind of messed up at the moment. Everything's kind of set in the same position. So what we're going to do is we have this, basically our edit text here. This line's messing me up for the most part. We have the edit text, and what we're going to do is just kind of lay out these buttons according to the other little items within here. So what we're going to say is Android for our button, Android, and then we can say layout, then we can say like below, I believe, and then we just add the reference of whatever ID that we want to lay it below. So we're going to say at ID /ET send, and let's check that out, save it, and it's going to put it below. Then another method we can use is like aligning that button. So we're going to say Android, and then we're going to align it according to the parent, which is the ID reference that we just set up. So we're going to say Android layout align parent right. So we're going to set it up to the right of basically the text view, and it's going to align it to that. And we need to set this to true or false, so we're going to say true, and as you can see, it moves this button over here. Now we're just going to set this start activity for result to the left of this button that we just set up. So we're going to say Android layout left, or to the left of, and then we just sorry, I always for some reason to the left of, and then we have to reference ID again, so we're going to say ID / whatever ID of that button was. So that was ID BSA, so ID BSA, and then check that out. It's going to be aligned to the left, but what we're now going to do is set basically the top alignment to the left of that parent as well. Or you'll see, I'm sorry. It's kind of hard to talk and think at the same time, man. But so now what we're going to do is basically say to the left of, and then we also say layout, and we have to set up the alignment. So we're going to say align top, and then we can set this equal to basically our reference as well. So we're going to say at ID / BSA, not question mark, / BSA, and check that out. And it's going to align the top with the top of this pretty much alignment. Now, see, I mean, I don't know if you guys wanted to use relative layout or not, but I just thought I'd show you guys the option. All we need to do now is change this text view as well. So we're going to say just quickly Android layout, and then below at whatever that button was called. So that's the at ID/B StartActivityForResult. And you know, that's good enough for the most part. You could also set the alignment to there as well, but I just wanted to show you guys the relative layout, how that works, and then we're also going to set up our other layout in the next tutorial. So I'll catch you guys then. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 45th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to be doing in this tutorial is basically setting up our other XML layout called send. And if you guys didn't like that last tutorial where we did relative layout, I'm totally with you guys because I hate relative layout. I learned on linear layouts and it's pretty simple. You can get pretty much the same result. So we're going to work with a linear layout within this one. So what we need to do, or what we're going to do for the most part, is set a text. Again, we aren't going to get into too much detail. I just wanted to introduce you guys to something called radio buttons and a radio group. But we're going to say enter text, and then we're going to scroll through our form widgets, and there should be there's radio button. Towards the bottom of the list there should be something called radio group, and basically we're going to drag and drop that in there. As you can see, this is radio groups, or radio group for the most part. Then we're going to go into the XML and copy. Well, actually, we're just going to work with 3 buttons because that's going to be easier to work with. In Java, we won't have to reference as much and it won't be as boring. But basically what a radio group is it's a group of these buttons, radio buttons. And when one of these buttons is pressed, whatever other button, like for example, if I press this here, this one would become highlighted and this one would not become highlighted. Kind of got its name because like those old school radio, players, if you press like the play button and it was on the pause button would come up, or like the stop button would pop up as you hit the play button. I don't know if that made sense, but basically that's all we're going to do with the radio group. And then we're going to add also another text view called test. Now we're just going to go into the XML and I'm going to Control-Shift-F for format all of it. There we go. And as you can see, 3 radio buttons are within this thing called a radio group. Now what we can do is we can set up a radio group, like set an OnCheckedChangeListener, and anytime one of the buttons within the radio group is pressed, it's going to change. And as you can see, basically it's pretty much the same setup as every other thing that we've done in XML except for this check true. That's basically saying that when we start up our application, this button's going to be checked true to start with. We're just going to delete that out of that first radio button, and now none of them are checked. So that's what we kind of want. And we're going to change this text, the first text view, to say something like Travis is ... and then we have some radio group, or I'm sorry, we're going to change the ID of this top text view. We're going to say text view question, something like that. Then let's say this radio group, we're going to say radio group RG answers, and then we're basically going to change all these radio, or we're going to change all these radio buttons as well. We're going to change this one to something like crazy, because when I started these tutorials I was going to try and make you guys think I was completely crazy. That's why I was like talking about my grandma. I was going to talk about like having cats everywhere, but I decided against that. So if you guys think I live with my grandma, I was just kind of kidding with that. But basically that's one of the choices. We can also say super sexy, which is true, by the way. And we're also going to change this last one to both, which is probably true as well. I'm a little bit crazy. Then we're just going to say R crazy for the ID, R sexy for that ID, and then lastly both. Just getting everything set up, and then we're also going to say text view test. So that's going to be kind of a test text view for the most part. And we basically have that application set up, or basically our layout. We aren't going to worry too much about everything for the most part. And then what I want you guys to do is set up 2 new classes, and I'll probably have you guys do this by yourself, but we're going to say data. We're going to call the main one data, and then we're also going to call the second one, let's say opened class. So there we go, we have our two classes set up for the most part. Again, we're just going to go into our menu class and we're going to just define one of them within here called data. Again, it has to be the exact same as class. Again, define it in the manifest, and I mean I'll start, because this tutorial is kind of short, I'll start again just showing you guys how to set this up. You guys should know how to do this by now, but both of them are going to extend to activity. Pretty much standard activities for both of these, and import it. Actually, I probably won't even show you guys. Just again, do on create real quick. And then if you guys basically you can set them up however you want, but you're going to want to set up all of your reference variables again. I like to do the initialize method and then just set them all up within there, but you don't have to. You can do, you know, all of your buttons within here as well. But yeah, get all those references set up over to the XML. Don't worry about our oh, hold on, actually I'm going to say set content view. Sorry, I'm kind of going spazzing out here with deciding if I want to show you guys everything or not. But we're just going to set the content view layout dot but I want you guys to get this set up properly. For our data class, we're going to set that up to, what would we call that one? Send? Yeah. Set that one to send. No, set that one to get. I'm sorry. And then set up our other class called open class to send. Just want to make sure you guys got those references set up. And then again, initialize all of your variables, get them set up in XML, or the reference bridges that we've done in the past plenty of times. Get those set up, but don't worry about the radio group for open class activity. I'll show you guys how to set that up in the next tutorial. So basically just set up everything, and then I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 46 Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial is I'm going to tell you about the OnCheckedChange method, but first I wanted to make sure you guys got everything set up, because I forgot that you guys probably want your variables the same as mine. So here's for my data class. Set up two buttons for the start activity and then start for result, the text view, or the edit text view. Then again, for the data class, you want to use the get layout. And then I created this initialize method, which initialized all those variables, set the references, set the OnClickListener to this, and then I just want to show you this as well, because before I tell you guys to do the view.OnClickListener and do it that way, but also you can just type OnClickListener, but if you hover over, you have two different classes where the OnClickListener comes from. One's from the dialog interface. You don't want that one. You want it coming from the view package. So just click on that one. And then again, we just have to implement that. So there we go. We have our onClick method set up for the most part. We'll get into that later. But also the other thing I wanted you guys to change real quick is our send XML. I forgot I wanted to add one button here. So just drag and drop a button in there. Let the text be return, and then the ID is button return right there. Nothing too new. You guys can again, you know, set that up however, but I just wanted to show you guys how I set this up. And then I go into our open class, and again, this is how I set it up. I had the two text view references, question and test, the button reference, return data, had the layout set to send, set up an initialize method again where I added those references, and just going to set up that set OnClickListener real quick. And again, this class is going to implement the OnClickListener. So there we go, we have the basic setup. Now what we want to do is basically reference this radio group. If we reference the radio group, we can get some information about which button was pressed. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a global variable. Whoops. It's the menu class, don't worry about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say within our initialized, or you guys, if you set up your variables here, just do it in the next line. But what we're going to say is radio group that we can use within different methods. So radio group, and we're going to call this RG for radio group, or we'll say selection list, something like that. Make it a little bit more descriptive. So there we go. We have a radio group set up, and then go within your initialize method or wherever you guys are using, or whatever you guys are using for the most part. We're going to say selected or selection list, which is again a radio group. We're going to hit dot, and we're going to say set on, and then it gives you pretty much the preference that it's going to look for. Again, we could do like OnCheckedListener, but it's better to say OnCheckedChangeListener, because anytime one of those radio buttons within this radio group is clicked, it's going to call this method, basically the OnCheckedChangeListener. As you guys can see here, you can see within its parameters, it takes a variable type or object for the most part, OnCheckedChangeListener. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement the OnCheckedChangeListener, just like when we say set OnClickListener, it takes an OnClick thing within it. We can implement two classes, so that's what I kind of wanted to show you guys. And again, we're just going to say this because we're going to implement it. So how you implement two classes is you just hit comma, and then do OnCheckedChangeListener, because again, this is a class name that this set OnCheckedChangeListener is looking for. So all we got to do is hover over it and say import, and again we have two options. We want to import it from the radio group class, so select that one, and again we have to use the methods every time we implement something, so add unimplemented methods. Now when you implement something, again you have to use the method within it, and when you extend something you can use the method in it. But the thing is, you can only extend one class, so I couldn't do like, you know, another class here or something. But you can implement more than one class, so that's nice. That's kind of a difference between implementing and extending as well. So basically when we scroll down, this is for our button that we have, that return button that we set up, and this is for a radio group. And at any time one of those radio buttons is selected, it's going to tell us what group it's from, and also basically the ID of which button was selected. So we're going to go within here because again it gives us kind of the information about the radio group that was pressed or something changed within it. And it's also going to tell us which button within that radio group was pressed. So what we're going to do is set up a switching case, kind of like we do anytime we have multiple things going on. And it's pretty simple. All we're going to do is say pass in the second argument called arg1. And this is going to give us pretty much the button that's pressed, or the ID of the button. So now what our cases are going to be is just the IDs of those buttons. So we're going to say case, and then r.id. R crazy. What was our top answer? Top one was crazy. And then we're going to just set this up for the most part. Copy and paste this twice because we had two buttons, and then change this from R crazy to R sexy and R both. Then Control Shift F for format. You can do that in Java as well. So again, it's giving us the ID of the button, and then if we're looking for this individual button, it's going to set that up. So there we go. We basically have our class set up for the most part. We'll break it down a little bit more in the next tutorial. So I'll catch you guys then, and hope you have a good day. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 47th Android tutorial. What we're going to do in this tutorial is basically start passing data by opening an activity. So we set up this OnCheckedChangeListener last tutorial. I was going to define some stuff, but basically we haven't we have no way to access this class because we haven't set up an intent and started an activity yet. So we're going to basically be done with this open class for right now. So just save that and then go into your data class right here. And what we're going to do is basically we have this all set up as well. Within this method right here where we say button start activity, this is where we're going to pass some data. So what we want to do first is set up basically a string that we're going to pass some data, because we're going to pass a string over to that other class for the most part, that open class. So we're going to set up the string within here, so it's going to be kind of a local variable, and we're going to call this string bread, which is kind of a confusing thing, but it'll kind of make sense here in a second. So what we're going to let this string equal is basically whatever our edit text has typed in. So we're going to say our edit text was called send et. So we're going to say send et dot get string, or I'm sorry, get text. It's kind of good review, and then dot toString because it needs to be a string. So basically we set up a bread variable to equal whatever our edit text is, and then that's what we're going to send. So basically how you send stuff is you send it through a bundle. And you guys have seen bundle a few times when we've been working with data for the most part with our camera application. So we're going to set up and basically you can think of a bundle as kind of a basket. So we're going to say basket, and we're going to just say new bundle. And there we go. Now we just need to put this string variable in our this bread in our basket for the most part, because we're going on a picnic. So to do that, all we have to do is say basket dot put string, and as you can see, there's a ton of different things. If you guys are trying to, put some other type of data in there, or like a integer, you just say put int. But since we're passing a string, we're going to say put string, and you have a few different choices. We're going to use this one because we aren't working with a string array, and we aren't working with a string array list. We're working with just a string, so I guess there's only just one choice here. And basically what a key is, this is kind of the reference. This is kind of the file name for the most part, so our next activity can look for that file name. That's basically what a key is, and then our value is going to be basically what we're passing, which is going to be bread. So we're going to say bread right here, again referring to that string we set up, which will be whatever our edit text is. And now we just need to label this key, so we're going to say I don't know, I'm hungry. No, I'm just going to say, dang it, I don't know. I can't think of anything clever. We're going to say key. Is that clever enough? So there we go. We basically labeled this string file key. So when we can access that in the basically in our next activity that starts up. So basically we've set our bread in our basket by saying put string. Then we just gave that string variable a key called key, and then all we have to do is set up an intent, because we want to open an intent, and we're going to call this just A. Pretty basic. And then you have to import intent, maybe I already have, and as always we say new intent, but this is going to be a little bit different parameters for the most part. So instead we're going to say basically we got to give the context, and then we got to say what class we want to open. So we're going to say basically the context of this class, which is called data. So we're going to say data.this, comma, and then we're going to say the class name that we want to open. And so we're going to say open class dot class, and basically that makes this reference a class reference. So it's just referring to the class name, and it's going to open that class for the most part. And then all we have to do is say start activity, and we're going to hit A because that's the intent we set up. So again, basically there we go. We set up a bundle that's going to be passed through this intent for the most part. But let me just talk through this again because it might be kind of confusing. We set up a string called bread, and it's just basically going to be equal to the text of our edit text, and then convert that to a string. Then we need to set up a basket for the most part, or a bundle, and that bundle is just going to be a new bundle object, and then we can put some stuff in that basket or in that bundle if you guys want to think of it the correct way, and we're going to put a string in there. We label this string key. That's basically the file name that it's going to refer to, and then the value of it is equal to the spread that we set up right here, which is our edit text. Then we set up an intent, and this intent kind of holds the data of this class, and then or the context of this class, and it's going to open the class called openClass. Now we have to do one other thing. Sorry, I kind of got ahead of myself here. All we have to do is set up this basket within our intent. So we're going to hit our intent, which is called A, and put extras. And as you can see, it takes a bundle within its parameters, so we're going to click that and then type our bundle, which is called basket. Sorry, I forgot like the most important part, so hopefully that didn't confuse you guys too much. But yeah, basically we set up our basket here, then we're setting up the context of whatever class the data is coming from, and then what class it's opening to, and then all we have to do is set up the intent and say, hey, we're putting some extras, carry this basket with you as you go, and then it's going to be like, alright, and then you're going to start that activity. Sorry if I kind of went out of order there, but hopefully you guys get the concept, because we did have put extra before, and this is just adding to the intent for the most part, which is our bundle. So the command is just put extras. I don't know, that's about all I can explain. Hopefully you guys kind of get that idea. If not, that's okay. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial where we're going to basically open that basket and eat the bread. So have a good one. What's up guys, welcome to your 48th Android tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to eat some bread for the most part. So in the last tutorial again we basically set up this intent. This intent's carrying this basket, and within that basket it has a piece of bread, which is our string reference, and again that piece of bread is going to be called key. So if I'm like, hey, can I have that key? And you're like, what? And if you hand me a piece of bread, you know what I'm talking about. So basically we've set up everything we need to within this data class for sending data, and then we're going to open up our open class, and what we're going to do is go in within our onCreate method, and we could create a method like get data or something and then set it up within the brackets, but I'm just going to do it within our onCreate method because I don't want to confuse you guys too much. But make sure you guys are doing this before, or after you initialized all your variables, or if you had all your variables within your onCreate method, do it below those as well. So what we're going to do is basically create a new bundle, and this bundle is going to be called got_basket. So let's say bundle, and then we have to import bundle. We're going to say got_basket first. And then you guys will have to import the bundle. I was kind of messing around with this just now as my video is rendering from the last tutorial. And how we're going to set up this bundle is basically the previous tutorial, gave us some context from the last class, and we're going to reference that. We're going to reference the intent. So what we're going to do is we're going to say get intent, and this is a method, so parentheses, and basically that's going to get the intent that was passed into the class. We're going to hit dot, and we're going to say get extras, because we added extras to the intent in the last tutorial, and now we're getting those extras. So just click that, and that's what our bundle is going to be equal to. Basically it's going to get that basket for the most part. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to set up a string and we're going to set this string up above our class so it can be referenced in multiple methods. So we're going to say string, and we're going to say got bread for the most part. There we go. And then now we need to set up this got bread basically to the bread from the last class. So we're going to say basically refer to this bundle that we just set up, which is going to get the extras from that intent that's being passed in. So we're going to say got basket dot, and then you can say get string, because this is a string object, so we're looking for a string. And as you can see, it takes a key within its parameters, and so we're just going to click that. And if you guys remember, we cleverly labeled our key in the last tutorial key. So basically that's the file name that we set up for our bread variable or bread string from the last class. So basically it's going to set this got_bread variable equal to our bread variable from the last class. So hopefully you guys kind of get that concept. And then all we're going to do is set up our text view, which is basically our question text view, to this string that we just got. So here you go. This is why we had to do it below our initialize, because otherwise it won't have the reference to that text view. So we're going to set this text view equal to which is question, and we're going to say dot set text, and then we're going to label this as got bread. So now we can pass a question along through our application. I'm just going to kind of get out of here and then run it. And as it's running, I'll just talk over this again. Basically our got basket is getting the bundle or getting the extras from the intent that's being passed into this class, and then our got bread is looking through that got basket. So hey man, I'm hungry, I need some bread, and they're gonna be like, hey, bread is called key. So if I'm like, hey, I can I have a bite of that key, and you guys hand me some bread, I know you've been watching these tutorials, because otherwise it won't make much sense. But basically this is the reference called key, and that's going to be basically our bread string. And then we're going to set up again this text view to our string variable that we just got from that intent. So let's check out, make sure it works. Again, you guys have to define this open class within the manifest as well. Then we're going to hit data, and we're going to say Jessica Alba is ... and then we're going to say start activity. We're going to get an error. Of course Jessica Alba would crash my application here. Alright, let's see what's up real quick. If I can't find it, I'll edit the video. For the most part it looks like this open class is having the activity or the problem here. And oh, I forgot to set up the radio button, basically the bridge from XML, so I'm going to set that up real quickly within the initialize method, and just kind of have to refer that. Pretty important. Radio group, and we're going to find that by ID. So if you guys ever get discouraged and you like mess up and like something's not working properly, everyone does it. Don't worry about it. So hopefully you guys are kind of understand this data thing a little bit better than before, and we'll kind of, you know, hopefully make sure that works. Let's change that splash to like 1 second so I don't have to listen to that again. Alright, hopefully everything works now. But alright, that's better. Data, and then we're going to say Jessica Alba is, and then start activity. Perfect. As you can see, there's our text, Jessica Alba is. So that's pretty much this tutorial. Next tutorial we'll kind of set up these radio buttons, and probably that's about it. So I'll catch you guys then, and have a good one. What's up, gangsters? Welcome to your 49th Android tutorial for the new Boston, again with me, Travis. What we're going to do in this tutorial is work within our open class, and also our our data class as well, kind of get the basic setup for our start intent for result, for the most part, start activity for result. So what we're going to do basically first is set up a new variable, or set up these radio buttons to do something. Sorry, I was reading something on my other computer, so sorry if I was kind of sidetracked there. But what we're going to do is basically set up a string variable. So we'll call this string. We're going to set up a new variable above our class, and we're going to say send data. That's what we're going to call this. So we're going to set send data up within our switch case down here. We're going to say these are kind of the answers for the most part. Did we set up an answers? Not positive. No. Alright. So we're going to say send data, and we're going to say if it's crazy, we're going to say probably write in quotations, copy, paste, definitely right, and both will say spot on. I don't know. I hear a lot of British people say spot on. I think that's what they're saying. I don't know. But that's what we're going to roll with. So there we go. We basically set up our new text variable. And all we're going to do is set up our text view that we set up here, I believe. Yeah, test. And that's the text view below all of our radio buttons in our radio group. We're going to do that outside of our switching case. So we're just going to say test.setText. This is just to make sure our radio button's working. And we're going to set it to our send data. So there we go. Basically, as you can see, here's our switching case, but we're still within our OnCheckedChangeListener right here. So basically, it's going to go through the switching case, set this data up according to which radio button's pressed, and then it's going to break the switch statement, and it's going to call this method where it's going to change the test text. So there we go. We basically set that up. And now we're going to set up our, just kind of messing around as well. We're going to set up our StartActivityForResult. So how we're going to do that is basically we're going to set up an intent. And, well, first let's use the method StartActivityForResult. We're going to say I because that's what we're going to label our intent. And now all we have to do is basically start our activity for a result, and we also have to set 0 as well. This is just kind of a default value that the start activity for result takes in. As we used in the previous tutorial, I believe we set up a variable and we set that variable equal to 0. Basically, just you can also use 0. It's just kind of a default, no biggie. And then we're going to set up an intent, obviously, so we're going to call this intent I. We're going to set it equal to basically, again, the same way we set up our last activity for the most part. So we're going to say, or yeah, our last tutorial, I believe it was. So we're going to say intent I equals new intent. I'm just going to copy this line here. And again, it gives it the context of this class and what class it wants to open. So it kind of has a reference. And then anytime we use this start activity for result, we need to import that method basically on activity result. So I'm just going to right click again, go to source, override implement methods, and this comes from our activity class. So we're going to say on activity result right here. Again, it takes in 2 integers and an intent. I'll break this down more as we use this method, but basically we've set this method up now, and that's pretty much the end of the tutorial. Again, I'm just going to make sure those radio buttons work, and there we go. Again, I'll explain that a little bit more in the next tutorial when we work with the actual passing the data and getting the result data, but we're going to go through the start activity for now. And as you can see, this test changes with each click of the radio button, and it's pretty amazing for the most part. So I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 50th Android tutorial for the new Boston. Again with me, Travis. What we're going to do in this tutorial is basically set up this start activity for result button. If they click that, it's going to give us some input from the next class for the most part. So what we're going to do is basically go into our open class because excuse me, go into this open class, and we're going to set up this onClick method because, again, this is for a return button. When a return button is pressed, we're basically going to send the data back, and then we're going to close the application. So again, every time we pass like data and such between classes, just think of that basket, that bread, and that person carrying the basket for the most part, which would be the intent. So what we need to do is set up an intent. We're just going to call this intent I or person, because a person can carry stuff between two activities. It just makes it a little bit easier to think about. And we're going to call it intent or new intent, basically setting up to be a new intent object. And then we're going to say bundle as well. We're going to call this backpack. Again, new bundle. Nothing too new here. And then all we need to do is basically set up what information we want to pass through, which will be our string. And again, whenever this onClick, or whenever one of these radio buttons changes, that's going to change the string variable to our answer for the most part. So that's a string that we're going to pass. We're going to say button or a backpack, and we need to put the string in there. So we're going to say dot put string, and then we have to set up a key, and we're going to call this answer or something like that, and also our value, which is our set data. There we go. So there's our key reference, which again is kind of our file name, kind of. You can think of it like that, and this is the actual value or what that file holds for the most part. Then the only other thing we need to do is basically the person carry the backpack now. So we're going to say person, which is our intent, dot put extras, takes a bundle, and we're going to call our bundle is called backpack. And there we go. Pretty much the same thing we've done before, but we're going to add two different things. Since we're starting this activity for a result, we need to give the result back for the most part, and you do that by a command called setResult. Within here, it's going to take two things within its parameters. Basically, one is going to be like, hey, everything checked out, you know, everything's good, and then the other one is going to be our intent that we're going to pass back to the previous class. So we're going to say results underscore OK, all cap locks, and that's basically going to tell our program that everything's okay. And then we're going to say our intent variable, which is person. And as you can see, this results okay turned blue because that's not something we define. That's just kind of a standard way to say operation succeeded. Again, you saw that when we did that camera application for the most part. Then the only other thing we're going to do on this button is press is finish this activity. Again, we've used the finish method before as well. So now when our button's pressed, it's going to set up our person, our backpack, put a string in the backpack, and then give the backpack to the person to carry back to the previous class, and that's what the setResult method does. Excuse me, I just drank a ton of pop, so like my throat's kind of has all that sugar in it and stuff. So now basically this application will work, but the problem is when we hit that StartActivityForResult button in the previous class, it's gonna basically give us an error because right on our onCreate method we have that other bundle that we set up from the previous tutorial. So we're going to comment out those 3 lines, and I kind of, it's poor planning because because it's going to give us errors either one way or the other, depending on which button we press. Now the only other thing we need to do is set up the stuff within the onActivityResult under our data class, and this is going to be basically the same as what we did for our camera application, but we're just going to say if result code, which again is something that we're getting passed back, and this is actually, if I go back into the open class activity, if I hover over here, you can see the first int says result code, the second int is our data, and that's basically what the same result. And as you can see when we go into our data class, that's some of the information we get back. We get a request code, a result code, which is what we just set up, our string OK, or result OK to equal, and we also set up the data, which was the intent from the other class. So we're going to say if result code, referring to this integer variable that's getting passed in, we're going to say if that's equal to result underscore OK, basically saying, yeah, did the operation check out, is everything alright? If it is, then we're going to do whatever is within this method. So that's basically what that result code was used for the most part. And then under here we're going to go within these brackets, our if statement. This is where we're going to just say kind of get the basket. So we're going to say bundle basket equals data. Again, the data is the intent from the class that just closed that we just set up. It's going to give us that information. We're going to say data get extras, again referring to the bundle that data is passing over. So it's basically opening up the basket and getting, or opening up the backpack and getting our, our string and all that good, or opening up our, basically giving the backpack to us for the most part. And then what we're going to do, sorry if that's confusing, we're going to say set up a new string variable, call it S, and we're going to say basket dot get string, and then we just have to reference our key, which was answer that we set up. And then we're just going to set our text view. Our text view variable is called got answer, and we're just going to set that equal, or set the text of that. So set text to our new string variable that we just set up within this class called S. This is capital S as well. And I mean, basically our application's done. Oh, okay, and also, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. Basically, the reason why this is giving us an error is because what we're doing is we're setting this int, this result int, equal to this. We don't want to do that. We want to check if it's equal. So you do that by hitting two equal signs. And that's going to say, hey, is this equal to this? Opposed to, hey, assign this value to a result code. So two equals, and then we'll get rid of that error. I don't know what I was thinking, just kind of went over that real quick. And then basically our application's done for the most part. Hopefully you guys kind of understand how data is working. Again, this application's poorly constructed because, as I'll show you real quick with our emulator, and again, you guys, you have to comment under our open class activity, comment out where we set up that bundle, because if we start ActivityForResult, it's going to give us a problem and crash our program when it's trying to set up this bundle and say get extras, even though we didn't send any extras into this class. So that's why you have to comment out those within the onCreate method. And then we're going to go into our data, and now what we're going to do again is we're just going to say StartActivityForResult. It's going to open it up. We're going to say super sexy, hit return. Again, it's going to put everything in the backpack, give us the answer, and set it up within this class. So hopefully that makes sense for the most part. Again, I poorly constructed this application, so for the most part. So again, this application is poorly constructed because if we started activity, now it won't pass the data into this class, but now our StartActivityForResult will work. And again, you can comment out those lines. So yeah, it's kind of a poor example, but hopefully you guys understand about sharing data between two classes with an intent, a bundle, and then basically whatever you're passing, for example a string. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial.